Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some of the results from the first weekend. The Reign of Jafar cards were legal for tournament play. This would be the May 31st and June 1st weekend. We had a couple of tournaments published. The big one that we want to take a look at, though, is going to be the Southside Gaming tournament. This one was streamed. I was able to tune in and out throughout the day, catching some cool matches, seeing how some of the new cards work in a lot of different decks, which is pretty cool. But I do want to take a look at some of these ones that were above 30, and then we'll jump into this one. So we'll just click on these real quick. We see Amber Steel Song in the top 2 of this tournament for a Gem Mint 10 Elsa. That's worth a lot, I'm pretty sure, right? That's over $1,000. It's pretty cool. But yeah, Amber Steel Song taking that one down. No surprise there. We all knew Amber Steel Song was going to be pretty good this format. And Steel Song also in second place. We don't know what won that one in complete results there, but the big one we want to take a look at, again, and you know the results already if you watch my Emerald Steel video, is the Southside Gaming Tournament. So here you can see the top 8 is published. We've got 3 Emerald Steel discards, 2 of which made top 4. We've got 1 purple Emerald or Emerald Amethyst discard making top 4 as well. So 3 out of the top 4 decks in this big tournament were discard. The one I was personally going for when I was tuning in and out was Dylan with this Ruby Amethyst list, but unfortunately he fell 0-2 in the finals. We did have 2 Amber Steel decks, but not Steel Song. We had aggro variations. That was pretty interesting to see. And we also had an aggro Amber Emerald, which was pretty cool to see. Expected, right, as the new Lady and the Tramp cards were definitely fitting very well into that strategy. So we'll take a look at that. Of the top 8 decks, there was a lot more to take a look at. Unfortunately, Blurple didn't end up making the cut, getting top 16, which is respectable. Jonathan Williams, Hector on. Don't tell me it's discard. Okay, yep, on Amber Emerald discard. I just want to see if there's anything new in this deck. Is he just running? Okay, Chip as a 2 of, that's the only new card that he's running in there. Okay, I just wanted to see, because I haven't actually experimented with Amber Emerald discard, so I just wanted to see if people were teching in anything new. Set 8 red blue, not in the top 8. It's pretty interesting. This one, Maurice's Workshop, so not a shark oriented list, but these item versions still out here doing a lot of work. 18 items. Tamatoa's, yep, just traditional red blue. But let's get straight into it. The big one is Emerald Steel. So I've taken a shot at Emerald Steel myself, and my list is definitely different than Mark's. But you got to remember that these guys are making their decks as per metagames, right? Like if they anticipate, a random, I find them, I flatten them. I don't think you'd be putting that in to your generic list unless you knew the metagame, right? So if Mark knew that, hey, there's going to be some people out there playing red blue items, I want to have this in there for those matchups. It's always an inkable card if anything, right? It's a 1-of tech option. The 1-of Grab Your Sword seemed to be a really good meta call as well. As you saw in that top 8, there were 2 Amber Steel aggro. There might be a case to play more of this, honestly, if Amber Steel aggro pops up more. It does look to be like a strong deck. A 1-of Pluto as well. I'm not a huge fan of this, but I can understand why it's in there. Pluto is definitely a strong card. But of course, the big thing is Beyond the Horizon. And surprise, they're not running 4, they're not running 3, they're just running 2. If anything, for me, I tried 4 and it was okay, but I think 3 is actually the proper number. But again, this is probably a meta call. And I will say, Mark obviously probably very well practiced with this deck, very well versed with it, so I'm not trying to criticize him by any means. But I will say, if I see 2 of this in here, that tells me that Emerald Steel players, are probably confident that the discard package is just strong enough that they don't even need to rely on Beyond the Horizon, which, in my opinion, is pretty telling of the power level of the deck. But yeah, 3 Brunos, 2 Beyond the Horizon, 4 Strength, and only 3 Storm. This is kind of interesting because I also kind of was like, I don't know if 4 Storm is correct. It's really good, don't get me wrong, but with a lot of things in the metagame now having 3 and 4 willpower, Storm can seem a little underwhelming. And even the double swing with Ursula, while it can be very good, this card being uninkable kind of hurts. So I actually like this 3 and 4 of. I think Strength is always a 4 of. even though it's technically more variable, right? Because it relies on you having more cards. It could be better, it could be worse, but it's inkable, and that's the big thing there. His total uninkable count was 13, 3 morph, and 4 Ursula, and your morph targets are going to be the Diablo, the Beast, and the Pete. I like 1 Namari teched in, and that I think that was my difference than the Pluto. Um, the Namari for me just being a huge character because it's a thing that this deck can struggle with is dealing with big characters. But I mean, technically the Pete could do it, and I guess you could say Beast Trap Kira once its damage can be a 7/5 and run over things. But I did like the Namari as a one of. I tried more than that; it didn't seem to work, but as a one of, it was cool. And then 3 Muses. I tried with 4 myself, and I even said I think I said it in the deck profile, like it just seemed like it was too much. So I agree with the 3 here. Yeah, the list looks really solid. I mean, 3 to 4 Prince John, up to 4 Hypnotize too. So just your discard package being the Sudden Chill, the Hypnotize. I guess you can say the Brunos as well, and of course the Ursula. But aside from that, you're just doing what Emerald Steel wants to do, and utilizing Ursula Singers, taking out cards like you would with Steel Song with the efficient Steel Songs there, and then discarding your hand with the Emerald actions and songs. So pretty straightforward. In the finals, I did go back and watch game one. I missed it, but then they made the stream private, so I couldn't rewatch game two. But I did tune in live for game two, and it was kind of interesting to see game one. Mark ended up going Diablo 1, and then turn 2, play Hidden Cove, shift Diablo, and then this Diablo drew Mark like 5 cards, and like it was over by turn 2, right? Like you get that line of play, and your opponent doesn't have the immediate answer because they can't brawl it, right? They can't Peter Pan shadow it because it's on the cove, so you have to deal with this cove, and as you're trying to deal with that stuff, your opponent's setting up, I don't know if you set up the Ursula Deceiver double sing, but like Diablo singing these songs is pretty strong in and of itself too. So the game one was a wash, and then game two, the infamous. I'm pretty sure that moment's gonna go down in Lorcana history as like one of the most absurd things that ever happened. Triple Prince John, all 3 Prince Johns into singing Beyond the Horizon, drawing 18 cards in game two. I will say Dylan probably played into that a little bit because the turn before he did Elsa tap down an Ursula Deceiver in order to take out the Singer 7 that was on board because there was 2 Prince John and an Ursula Deceiver for a total of sing together 8. He played the Elsa, tapped down the Ursula Deceiver, took it out so that Mark couldn't sing the Beyond the Horizon, but then he played into it the next turn. So I'd be interesting to see what his logic was there. Not criticizing these guys. He might have just been like, I don't think he has it. I'm just gonna risk it, and that's totally reasonable. But of course, Mark did have it, and the commentators were like, I think they were like amping it up. They were like, oh my god, this is gonna go huge because Dylan here ended up with 5 cards in hand, and Beyond the Horizon made him discard 5 with triple Prince Johns on the field. That means that Mark drew 15 cards plus the 3 off Beyond the Horizon. So he ended up with 18. Dylan here ended up with 3. And at that point in the game, which I think was turn 5, the game was over. So both of these games, in my opinion, the writing was on the wall pretty early on. It was unfortunate because I did think that Dylan had a good shot in game 2. But I mean, like what, and this is the issue, right? It's like, what could he really do? The Prince Johns are sitting there. He can't do anything to interact with them. So he's just like, they're going to sit there and he's going to sing the Beyond the Horizon no matter what. So you can't even fault Dylan really on some of his choices because he's like, what else am I going to do? The Prince Johns are there. I can't do anything until turn 7 where I can be prep. And that's going to get ripped out of my hand, right? So, but yeah, really cool list here. We can see that he's back on the Mim package, the Merlin Crab, and the Rabbit. Interesting to see a lot of people, including myself, if you looked at a lot of my early lists, are not playing Goats. While Goat is good, I think that the format has evolved past Goat to be faster. So we'll see if that ends up panning out and staying. Only 2 Iago. I personally am a big fan of the 4 Iago and the 4 Peter Pan Shadow, but only 1 Genie, interestingly enough. Dylan here showing the value that Rabbit can give you, right? If you're playing a big bounce package, it makes sense to play more Rabbit over Genie, so that's fine, in my opinion. Only a 2-2 split on Elsa and Maui here. 1 Tremaine, which I think put in some decent work for him over that weekend. It'd be interesting to know if he'd want to play more. 14 uninkables though, so he is kind of up there, right? 1 Genie, 4 Shadow, 4 Rabbit. That's already 9 uninkables. No big Hades, which is fair, right? If you're expecting a lot of discard, that Hades is considerably worse considering it's a brick in your hand for the first 7 turns, just like a B prep. 1 random Monstro in here as well. 4 Shark, of course. 3 Brawl. One, everybody's got a weakness. I've been testing this card, and it does feel pretty good. I didn't realize it worked this way, but apparently it. Well, maybe I just read it wrong. Move one damage from each. Yeah, so you move one damage from each character you have that's damage, and they all go to one character on the opponent's side. So I thought it was like move one damage to like one damage of each of your opponent's characters that they have. But no, it's like if I have three characters on board and they're all damaged, all three, like I take one damage counter from each of those three characters and move it all to one opponent's character. So I deal 3 damage to one of my opponent's character, and it gets around resist because it's moving damage counters. It doesn't deal the damage, right? So it's a pretty decent card, and then it draws you that many cards. So if I move 3 damage counters, I draw 3 cards. I really do like this card. I ended up picking up 2 foils over this weekend after testing it a little bit more. So yeah, nice on Dylan for recognizing the potential of this card here. And then 1 Dragonfire, 1 Finders Keepers. I got, again, kind of just like a Maui Shark toolbox. 2 Pirates Life. I think we're all pretty set on these ratios now. 4 Friends, of course. 3 Prep, and 3 Library as well. So between Library and Queen's Castle, I think you can decide on which one you want to do based on your metagame. Library here, a little bit better for Dylan because of this 1 drop package, I would say. Uh, if you're running the brooms, obviously you get really good value off of library because you can move it to the library, trigger the broom to banish itself, and then draw 2, right? By playing another character. So, yeah, pretty nice list. If you're running the bounce package, I think you're going with rabbits over genies. I would probably like to see more Iago just because I just, me personally, I'm afraid of the evasives on the opponent's end. Um, and if you're worried about what ended up happening to him in the finals, which you can't really say I'm gonna tech in more cards just for like a one-off high roll scenario, right? Where the opponent gets a Cove and a Diablo, but like that's where the Peter Pan Shadow just doesn't do enough, right? Like technically the Pegasus does, but I mean you play Pegasus, it gets outed by a Diablo singing a Storm Rage or a Strength anyways, right? Strength only needs 1 damage to take it out. So Pegasus showing its limitations there as well in that interaction, but great showing by Dylan coming in second place. I would have liked to see Ruby Amethyst take it, but it is what it is. Let's take a look at the next top 4 list in the Emerald Steel. We've got 2 Beyond the Horizons here as well, so it does seem to be that players are opting for 2, not 3, not 4. A bit of a different list. We're on the chips, only 1 Cove here, only 2 Hypnotize, 4 and 4 of the Steel Songs, 4 Brunos, and 1 Cricky. On 4 Morphs, not 3. 3 Prince John still. So, these lists are more or less the same. There's just going to be little tech changes here and there. So, obviously, like the Cricky here, instead of, still with the 1 Pluto, the double chip, instead of going with 4 Hypnotize. And the reason why you might want to split these up is because the Hypnotize, obviously being an action, is fodder for Diablo to pitch. Whereas the chip being a body is a contributor to like Singer, right? Like, well, you don't play Zeus here, but it doesn't sing Bruno, but it can sing together with Beyond the Horizon. But if you're running only 2 of this, you're not really planning on like blowing the opponent out with Beyond the Horizon, so maybe the chip loses some value there. So yeah, just some interesting considerations when you're building Emerald Steel, but it is what it is. And then the other discard, the Amethyst Emeralds. Pretty much an adaptation from set 7 with the addition of pull the lever and wrong lever. I think this package is pretty good. The rest of the list is pretty standard from what it was before. Only 2 Peter Pan Shadow and 2 Iago though, with 2 Cricky, and should be 3 to 4 Crabs here. Only 2 Fox, which is interesting. Not sure how I feel about that one, but I mean, there's not really much you want to bounce here. I guess you're just really utilizing Fox for its rush ability. Like, bouncing Crab obviously is good. Yeah, you don't really want to be bouncing Genies, but I guess you could. Bouncing Cricky could also be okay, especially to replay it for its boosting ability the next turn. But yeah, pretty intense song and action package, right? Very, very efficient. Like, draw and discard, draw, discard, and then bounce, bounce, right? It's just like I'm either drawing, I'm making you discard, or I'm bouncing your stuff. So having these versatility and options, I think, is what makes this deck very, very strong. I'd be interesting to see more experienced. I did play this deck a decent amount last set. I ended up picking this deck up, and it did very well for me. But I just don't like the play style. And also, if you really know how to play against this deck, unless again they get like those blowout lines of play with Emerald Steel. Not Emerald, with Amethyst Steel. Holy cow, Amethyst Emerald decks. There is a lot of counterplay to this deck, I think. Um, but with this new package, maybe it solved some of the not problems, but some of the weaknesses that the deck had in terms of coverage, which I can definitely see. And congrats to Thiago here for getting top four. I really like this list. I would say if I was going to build this deck, you don't really need many Prince Johns because again, you have other robust drawing options. Um, these cards being actions also feed into the Diablo discard for the shift as well. Obviously, 12 targets to shift Diablo onto. You're getting this out early. The only thing I would maybe consider is like, again, and it would be a meta call, it would be hidden coves. Um, but maybe that's not even needed because of just like how efficient the deck is. Like you put this Diablo on board, even if it gets dealt with, you're like whatever. Like I'm still doing Amethyst stuff. I'm still doing Emerald stuff. Like it doesn't even matter. The Diablo gets me +2/+3. That's fine, right? I mean, it does go -2 to start, right? Because you got to shift it on top of a character, but you don't really care about that because losing Maleficent Spy or Spiteful Raven isn't really that big of a deal. Even this Diablo, like yeah, you lose a draw one, but then this card replaces the draw one anyways. So like the shift package here is very efficient. That's one of the reasons why this deck was so good. But yeah, the pull the lever, wrong lever combination, I think is just it's really strong. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I liked it at least from what I've tested. I'd be interesting to see if Thiago also found it to be as good as we all expected during the tournament run. Next up, we got the aggro lists. So we got Amber Steel aggro, not Steel Song version. Um, the Rhino is the card of the set for Amber, it seems. Yeah, the stocks of this Rhino Power Hamster are going up because it's definitely being played in the aggro variation and it's being played in Steel Song too. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it is definitely good. Basically, a turn 2, 4/3 body that quests for 2 and has resist 2 is going to get you pretty far before your opponent can actually deal with it. So it's definitely a strong option. It's why, again, crabs and stuff like that are so important in the metagame. Turning your 1-drops into things that can run over stuff like this is very important. But you need 5 strength to run over this, right? If it has no damage. So it can be a bit of a menace to deal with. But yeah, it's definitely a really strong option. The Rapunzel Tower also just being an absolute absurd power boost in terms of the willpower to like things like Calhoun, Mr. Smee, the Rhino, the Shift here, but also things like Piglet and Lady. Cards that are inherently very weak on their own, especially with all the Emerald Steel in the format. The Rapunzel Tower can really help make these cards a lot more resilient and survive for their quest as well, which is pretty important. Still playing the Daisy and the Cinderella into the 8 Steel Songs. Pretty straightforward for this deck, capping out at 4 with the Rapunzel. Not much to say here. Your draw engine is simply the dock, though, which can be a bit of a problem, but hopefully you're able to win the game before you need to see multiple docks. Hopefully seeing one is enough to push you over the line. And obviously, for Justin and the other player making top 8 with Amber Steel aggro, it was enough. I'm not sure what's going on here with the back button. It seems to like not be working too well. Guess we just go back to the main page. Whoa, nope. What is going on? All right, well, I don't know if the site is lagging or if that's just me. But my internet seems fine. Huh. All right, hopefully you're still with me. I do want to take a quick look at Aaron's list before we... Okay, it looks... Well, no, he's got Mulans in his list and Lilos. Never mind, I was going to say it looks to be the same. And the Princes. Okay, so this is actually a very different list. Still on the Rapunzel's Tower. Rapunzel's Tower with the Prince is nuts, man. Making this thing in 0-8 with Bodyguard? Holy cow. That's crazy. I picked up copies of the new Inkable Bodyguard. I think it was Jim Darling. It's a 2-cost Inkable 0-4. So the difference between this and the Prince is that the Prince is 0-5 uninkable. Jim Darling, I think, is 0-4 inkable. And I was testing him in a Perdita deck, Amber Amethyst, and it was working out pretty well. Obviously, the Prince is good too, being a 0-5, but he's uninkable. So But obviously in a deck like this, you're not playing Perdita or anything. I was just messing around, testing. But for the aggro list here, these bodyguards are, I think, the 05, 04 bodyguards can definitely show their value. To just get over this thing so that you can start getting to the 2 questers and stuff can be a bit of a nuisance. And then again, if you leave it up and then they get the Rapunzel's Tower active and then move it there, you're just like, all right, like I have to spend 2 turns basically trying to deal with this thing, and then you're just going to aggro me out in the meantime. So yeah, pretty cool lists. Interesting to see there actually, sorry, there was no, oh, there is a Rhino, sorry, never mind. So yeah, 16 1-drops, wow. I'd be interesting to see if he found the Mulan useful. The draw and the discard, you're on 15 on Inkable, so that is a little high. The Daisy, the Calhoun, oh yeah, the Docks, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Power Hamster showing its value there as well. And then the final top 8, we'll take a look at the aggro list too, the Amber Emerald aggro. But another Amber Steel discard. Amber Steel. What am I saying? Emerald Steel discard. With the Cove, again, 2 Beyond the Horizon. Okay, so pretty, I mean, this list is, actually, of all the lists, aside from this one of Chip, I think I would like this one the best. I would maybe just go 4 Hypnotize and no Chip because, I'm only on 2 Beyond the Horizon. But a 1 of Tinkerbell is cool. Seems, yeah, I think I would like this list the most out of all of them, just because it seems the most consistent. I would, again, personally prefer 3 Beyond the Horizon. But I like the 2 Coves. I would maybe cut one of these Storms for a Beyond, maybe something like that. I like the 4 Bruno. Aside from like this ratio here, I would maybe go with 4 Hypnotize. Again, this is just me personally. I like the 1 Tinkerbell as your 1 of like off shift option. You could go aerial too, but I think the Tinkerbell just gives you more value since it comes into play. It has immediate impact. Yep, nice list there. And then the final thing we'll take a look at before we wrap up this video, Nathan with Amber Emerald making top 8, so congratulations on some of the new tramp stuff here with the new lady 03. When this character has 3 strength or more, she gets +2 lore. Whenever you play a character, this character gets +1 strength this turn. That's right. So you play 3 characters in a turn, she becomes a 3 quester, which is definitely something you can do with a list like this. 14 1-drops, 4 Tamagos, a lot of 2-drops, 16 2-drops, only 3 3-drops. And again, the goal here is that on turn 3, you're probably doing a combination of 1 and 2 drops. 4 Rapunzel, of course. 4 Sven. I talked about this card. This card is phenomenal. Ready up something and quest for 2 and is a 3/3 body. It's really good stats for a really, really good effect in Amber. 4 Cricky, which is very interesting. And 3 of the Goofy. Wow. Just put this down with Ward and be like, I'm going to quest for 3. I'm not afraid of big Sisus and stuff because, hey, I'm going to win the game before you even get that out. 4 of the Big Shift Lady, which is very interesting because he only has 4 1-drop ladies and no other ladies. So I can imagine a lot of the time you were just raw playing this out, which seems very counterproductive to what you want to do. But again, to be fair, I mean, you're only playing 4 Pegasus and you're playing 4 of this big Pegasus. Playing this out raw, it's still a 2 quester, but it does seem like it would be kind of slow. But obviously he made top 8, so this is a pretty awesome deck, I think. Very unique. A lot of 5-drops, which is not something you would really consider. So I don't know if I'd really categorize this as like a hyper. It's not a hyper aggro. Again, I'm not trying to criticize the deck. I'm just trying to understand it and think about it. Like if you don't see the shifts, you're raw playing this out. Is that still fast enough for what you want to do? I mean, you get +2 off of this, right? Because look at how many 1 and 2 drops you're playing. I would think playing the Pegasus out raw is probably the worst, but by the time you play this out raw, you probably have enough pressure on the board, or you've gained enough lore that your opponent's like, I see this Pegasus, I have to deal with this now. So even playing this out for 5 probably isn't the worst. But I think if you look at this list, the payoff that you would get off shifting this, making your whole board evasive, is probably like game-winning plays. Like your opponent's like, okay, I'm gonna deal with his board, then all of a sudden you just out of nowhere Pegasus shift, and then your opponent's like, oh well, so much for me trying to deal with your board, I lose the game. And then another thing is obviously, well, for 3 you can do kit or you can do just in time. And I mean, I guess, you know what? Actually, I take back what I said. So my apologies. Yeah, this makes sense now because you can look at it as you can either shift lady for 3 or I can just in time the lady for 3, right? So it's essentially 2 ways to get this big lady out on 3. Obviously the difference is if you shift it, you can quest with it right away versus just in time, you don't quest with it right away. But this is a nice option, and the just in time also works with. Okay, I see. I see. I apologize. I should have looked at the whole thing first. So yeah, just in time, any of these cards is actually kind of insane. I like this list. I think I might have to play this and test it out. I've always been a fan of just in time. I mean, it is negative card advantage, which is like the opposite of what I would usually like because I'm a big card advantage kind of person. But I mean, if you just in time lady, like that's 2 cards that replace themselves, right, with 2 other 1-drops. Just in time a quickie, boost up your board, go positive in the trades, and then you still have a 3-quester that you developed. Just in timing a goofy on 3. I mean, it is a 1/4, so it probably gets outed, but I guess you could like set this up like if you just in time the goofy and then obviously you pass, your opponent does something, you're like, okay, goofy quest for 3, and then if you play just in time on 3, you can Sven on 4, ready up the goofy. That would be really strong. So there's a couple of cool combo things I see you can do in this deck. I like this deck. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Congrats on Nathan for congrats to Nathan, sorry, for making top 8 with this list. Um, yeah, it just goes to show you guys, you can't like it's hard sometimes to like. I mean, I've played most of these decks. I've played Amber Steel Aggro, not very much, but I've played it. I've played, like I said, Emerald Amethyst discard. I played a decent amount of Emerald Steel discard. I play a lot of Ruby Amethyst. I haven't really played a lot of Amber Emerald aggro. Very little Amber Emerald aggro. So yeah, my inexperience on that deck list shows. So again, pretty cool list, all things considered, once you start evaluating it. But that is your top 8 for the Southside Gaming Tournament. If you made it this far in the video, guys, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.